All right, fellas, get it rocking. Let's get it rocking. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. Give me 1 second. Just adjusting some stuff real quick. Okay, very, very good. Turn these down real quick. All right, appreciate you guys for stopping by today. Today is the 20th episode of the Life of a Champ podcast. So for today, we're going to be discussing the dynamic of masculinity and femininity. And before that, I want to preface with this. I have some things written down, so I'll go ahead and get it started. So obviously, this podcast, like I said, is a Life of a Champ podcast. So these things are going to be my experiences, my opinions, and stuff like that. So if you give a damn about those, then of course it's going to be on here, right? But like I said, with just like everyone, I'm not perfect, and then some of the things I'm going to say are going to be flawed. And as because like I said, I'm growing. I'm only 20 years old, so um, my opinions are ever changing, and if I ever feel the need to go back on some things that I had said in the past, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So one of these things had came up. I had a big supporter of the podcast bring this to my attention. They're referring to what's good GDP. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, I was referring back to episode number 18, which was questioning society standards and avoiding societal traps. I had said a few things in that podcast that were a little insensitive, and like I had said, I'm making this first part of this podcast, um, basically just reframing the things that I had said, and ultimately just realizing, like I said, just like everybody else, I'm not perfect. Um, but yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah, move this up real quick. All right, there you go. It's better now. Okay, so so within my podcasts, I have a common thing that I do, which is overgeneralize some things. So I'll make some assumptions, um, based off of some men and some women, some of the traits that they have, some of the things that they think about. I'm going to make these overgeneralizations and assumptions at times. Okay. And not all these are going to be correct. Some of these things are going to be based off of my experience, but what I will say is I think these things that I say should be taken into account, but they're not going to be the entire full truth. So I'm going to go ahead and preface with that, right? Um, Sometimes the assumptions can give off a more of a negative point of view, and um, it's going to happen at times. But ultimately, what the message that I'm trying to put out is typically going to be a positive message. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, you learn every day. So that's what I'm saying, man. So ultimately, all these things that I'm going to be talking about I'm going to be trying to talk about them in a positive light, and sometimes they can be taken out of context and used for the negative. But like I said, my ultimate purpose within this podcast, within any content that I create on the internet, is to have a positive impact. Some of it's actually going to be entertainment as well, which you'll see within this podcast as well. But for the most part, I'm uh, trying to get a message out that's going to be more of a positive outlook of life. So I want to start off with that, right? One of the things that I had mentioned, which was a little insensitive, and I can recognize that, was nobody wants to be overweight. Now, regardless if I think that's true, or regardless if that's a true statement or not, whatever, that is not something that is the most. I would say that's insensitive to say, right? Everybody's different, and I have to be conscious of that and accept that for what it is. Everyone is different. Everyone has different goals in their life. For me personally, I'm not trying to be overweight, and I'm going to work and make sure I do the diet changes. I'm make sure I'm putting in the work in the gym, so I will never be fat. So that's or never be overweight. My bad, right? So that's my point of view right there. So sometimes that can spill over to some of the things that I say, but it's just my own philosophy for myself. Like I said, I'm speaking for myself, right? Another thing is I had some type of conflicting views within body positivity because I was, like I said, with the statement above, like the statement I said earlier, nobody wants to be overweight. That's not really the best type of way I could have said that. Um, like I said, I speak on another podcast you will see on positive self talk, which that falls in the category of positive self talk. I was not trying to belittle the importance of that, but I was trying to emphasize the need for physical exercise within your life because it is beneficial in many different ways. And the way I said it on that podcast episode number 18, like I said, was a little insensitive, and like I said, I'm just kind of going back and giving you a little bit more perspective, and also changing some of the things that I had said as well, right? The next thing is, um, like I said, I just wasn't being empathetic to some people's life situations. Like I said, everyone is different, and um, everyone has their own situations. And of course, like I said it earlier on. I speak in generalizations, and I have I speak in assumptions as well, right? And these sometimes that's going to be used against me, but it is what it is. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and try to reframe the things that I had said in the first place, right? Um, as well with that being said, right? Since everybody's different, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule and outliers that exist within my overgeneralizations and my assumptions. There's going to be things that there's going to be when I speak in overgeneralizations, I'm speaking for a um not the majority, but I'm speaking for what, like I said, what I see personally, pretty much what I see, the odds in which I see, right? And within that, I'm not always going to take into account the outliers and the exceptions to the rule, but they do exist. So I have to be conscious of that, right? So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Um, if there's anything you think I'm being a little bit too harsh on, please let me know, and I will try to. I want to really analyze this because this channel is also about self improvement, and not only self improvement by me giving advice out, but also taking some in for myself. All these experiences are learning experiences for me. So, with that being said, that was just one of those learning experiences that I had to learn the hard way, but I have learned it, and I will try to move a little differently. I'm not going to change the podcast ridiculously, but I'm going to try to move a little differently and be a little bit more careful with the word choice that I use. So, with that preface, I'm going to get into the topics for today. Um, just to let you know, in this podcast, there's going to be generalizations coming that I'm going to use. So I'm gonna preface this new podcast with that, right? All right. So we're talking about the we're talking about the masculine and feminine dynamic that exists. And like just to preface with this, when I'm talking about the masculine and feminine, I'm not exactly saying man and woman, because the um the energies and the dynamic can be flipped. You can have a masculine and feminine dynamic between two men, two women, uh, and so forth. All of the all in between, right? Majority of relationships, I'll go ahead and say this. Majority of relationships have this dynamic, and the reason they have this dynamic is because polarity is needed, and the reason why polarity is needed is if two things are the same. If okay, for example, right? Let's just say you have two people in a relationship. I'm just gonna use a man and a woman, right? And they're both trying to lean on to their masculine side, right? Well, actually, they realistically, it's not gonna work. It's masculine energy is usually going to be um, a little more confrontational, so that's not going to end very well. But if they're too feminine, then the original feminine energy, which typically is the woman, is going to look for masculine energy. And if masculine energy is not there, her attraction is going to lose, and the relationship from there could be very well diminished. So there are certain things like that within these dynamics that I want to pretty much set the foundation for, right? Um, the masculine and feminine dynamic is both needed. They're both valued, and it's like a yin and yang, pretty much, right? Um, you can't have one without the other, and like I said, you absolutely need both, right? And within my relationships that I have in the future, I'm definitely going to be super conscious of these things because it just works out better that way within my experience and within the experiences that I've seen in other people and other relationships. Like I said, when you have too much masculine energy or too much feminine energy within the relationship, something's thrown off. Those are just my observations, like I said, right? All right. I want to start off with this because I was very much looking forward to talking about this topic, right? So, the feminine energy, right? Through my observations, the way that the feminine energy is perceived by women nowadays, they look down upon femininity, which is a travesty. I cannot I cannot express how negative that is actually affecting the society that we live in right now. Um, Femininity has a weak look right now within society. Um, Women are looked as, if you're a woman and you have feminine energy, and um, other women see that, you're looked at as like a pick me type of girl, and that is not the way I think it should be personally, right? Like I said, this is Life with Champ podcast. I'm going to say my opinions, right, for sure. But that is something that I see, and the feminine energy is one of the most powerful energies within this world. It brings life. It brings things to life, right? So, with that being said, when you downplay the importance of feminine energy, there's going to be a conflict of interest 100% of the time. Okay. Um, I'm trying to think. I wrote down a few things, right? The feminine energy is typically going to look like more supportive, caring, maternal. It's going to be a little bit more emotional. It's going to be empathetic. It's going to be helpful. What did I say? Passionate. Um, it's going to be a little bit more looks conscious. And what else did I have? It's going to be a little bit more soft spoken, right? And the masculine energy is generally attracted to that feminine energy. Me personally, as a masculine man, I am attracted to those feminine qualities, and I look for those within the women that I vet to be in a relationship with. So, um, that's just my opinion, right? So, what I another thing that I see within femininity is the modern women, the women of today. Most of the women of my experiences, and not only my experiences but my observations, is that modern women are not this. They are steering away from this. Like I said in the beginning of this little rant, um, it's looked down upon. And oh my God, let me tell you how that affects society. Let me tell you how that affects society, right? So if you have a lack of femininity a um, within a society, right? It's automatically replaced with masculine energy, and how that affects um, society, right? So if you have a woman who's looking for masculine men but is masculine herself, now when she gets into a interaction or relationship with a man, there's going to be a sense of competition, and men like competition and will do anything to win for the most part, right? Or masculine energy likes competition, right? Appreciate you for stopping by, KJ. So it's going to be, if you have too much of the masculine energy, right? There's going to be an issue because, like I said, there's going to be conflict. Um, and I see that a lot. I see that a lot within society today. A lot of arguments stem from this, and things like that, right? Um, Now let me give you the opposite, right? Let's just say you have a man. Okay, so obviously, let's say you have a feminine woman, which the feminine woman is generally going to be attracted to the masculine energy, right? So let's say you have a feminine woman and you have a masculine man who was once masculine, right? Who had all the values and traits of what it takes to be a masculine man, right? And slowly, which I see this happen so much, you see, the masculine energy, or the man in this case, get comfortable. And when you see it get comfortable, it starts to lose its qualities and become more feminine. So this is what I see, right? So let's just say um, the masculine energy of the man in this situation goes to the gym, works on his purpose, um, is persistent, cares about his family, whatever, right? And a woman comes into his life. Obviously, they're in a relationship, so you have a masculine man and a feminine woman, which is ideal. That's what I would deem as ideal circumstances, right? Um, with that being said, now you have the man getting more comfortable. He's losing some of his masculine qualities, and now the woman who's in the feminine role has to adopt some of the masculine traits in order for the polarity to still be there, for the attraction dynamics to still be there. But in her essence, she is a feminine woman, and she's attracted to masculinity. And the less masculine this man becomes, then she's not going to be attracted. And the more masculine the woman becomes, the masculine man, or who was once masculine, who still looks for femininity, is not going to like that woman anymore. And you see these roles get flipped, and people think Okay, I'm gonna go back. Move back what I'm saying, right? So you see these roles get flipped, and if I and like I said, within your essence, if you're a woman and you're a feminine woman, right? You're going to yearn for that masculine presence, and if you're a masculine man, I'll use a man for this example, right? Facts, like you spin facts, exactly. Um, then you're gonna look for that feminine. You're gonna look for that feminine energy, right? So what is that? Okay, first, what does the masculine energy look like? It's usually going to be the protector, the provider, one that is going to be on his purpose, uh, trying to fight off, you know, trying to do whatever it takes, trying to do whatever it takes, right, for his family, right? Like I said, the protector, the provider. It also is more rooted in independence. It's rooted in leadership, strength, assertiveness. Masculine energy is a little bit more logical. It's a like I said, it's a little bit more competition driven, and it's pretty much just on the constant progression. That's the masculine energy. If I were to describe it within my own terms, that's what the masculine energy is, right? Um, with that being said, one thing I want to talk about as well is how society views masculinity right now. Through my own eyes, I didn't think this was actually possible, but it is, right? You see society thinking that it's okay for men to be less masculine. And not to say that it is not okay, right? There's situations in where it is okay, but there's also situations in where if you are lacking this, you're going to be lacking as an entire society. And I see this so prevalent with nowadays, right? Um, and if you preach on some of these things, you're labeled as toxic or toxic. Or you're toxic masculinity. You possess toxic masculinity traits, which is a term that was uh, coined not too long ago by feminists, right? And now this through my observations, this word is thrown around everywhere within something that possesses masculine qualities. And what I will say is, I do think it exists. I do think it exists, and through my own perspective, I think okay. First, let me define what toxic masculinity is, so you guys have somewhat of a grasp of what I'm actually talking about. And I did research this before the podcast. Toxic masculinity, like I said, it's a term founded or a term coined by feminists, founded a few years ago. Um, in essence, it's going to be extreme male behaviors, exaggerated masculinity, like violence, unemotional, and what this thing said was sexually aggressive, right? Men using dominance, violence, and control to assert their power or control. Right. So that is the foundation of that, right? Do I feel like some of what this is true, 100%? But what I also will say is some of these things that are elements of toxic masculinity are also what attracts the feminine. And a lot of people will disagree with this, but I see it time and time again where it plays a role. Um, but yeah, so what I would deem as toxic masculinity is overaggression. That's toxic masculinity for me. Is um, overaggression not channeled in the right way. So what this looks like is maybe you're at a bar, right, and you got that one guy in the bar that's fucking like something happens, something little happens, and he tries to fight somebody over it, all right, or something like that. Let's just say this is toxic masculinity to me, right? You're playing basketball, right? I've had this happen to me so many damn times, and it pisses me off to this day. I play basketball. You know what? I'm doing good. Whatever. I never really thought about this like this. Exactly. This is why you need this. Um, let's say I'm playing basketball. It's competitive, a lot of trash talking, whatever, right? And I win the game. I'm talking trash, which should be okay. I talk trash when I play basketball, but I only talk when somebody else talks, right? And this happened to me the other day. This guy wants to fight me because I'm playing basketball and I'm beating him. That's toxic masculinity to me. You're trying to use you're trying to take the game out of context and try to use violence to get your way, when in reality it doesn't apply to what's actually going on within the setting. It's ridiculous. But like I said, violence, when you resort to violence and aggression, I think those are going to be a toxic masculinity. I was going to say there's difference. Yeah. Yeah, like I said. Um but yeah, let me try to think. Hold up, give me a second. Give me some water. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Trillion, you already know, man. You already know. I still got the pictures, man. Those days were lit, man. Those days were lit, man. He's talking about sixth grade basketball. He was number 24. I was number 23 for our elementary school, which is such a good time. Such a good time. Great memories. Um, appreciate you guys for stopping by. I recently seen that I had 5 viewers, so if you're in here right now, make sure you leave a comment. I do see some people already leaving comments, which I appreciate. But if you have any input on the things that I'm talking about today, or you have a question regarding some of the things that I'm talking about, please let me know, and we'll go ahead and go from there. Right. All right. All right. So going back to toxic masculinity, right? And well, okay. One thing I will say within all these topics, right? These are things that I've researched very, very thoroughly. And like I said, these are also my observations. I got to keep saying that because I don't want people to take these things out of context, right? Um, but I am open, just like everything. I'm open to having my perspective changed. And if you can change my perspective, you're going to need to come with a lot of evidence, a lot of things that are going to sway my opinion, and then maybe I'll change. That's just the way it is, right? But the way I come to my opinions is through a lot of research, through a lot of experience, whatever, right? That's how I come to my conclusions. I'm willing to change my opinion, but the only way I'm going to change my opinion is if you have a convincing enough topic to actually change it, right? So just to reiterate some of the things that I mentioned. You got the feminine energy, you got the masculine energy, right? Feminine energy is a little bit more rooted in being the support system, a little bit more maternal, a little bit more emotional, and the masculine energy is going to be a little bit more going to be the protector, the provider, usually a little bit more independent. It's going to have strong morals and things like that, right? That's going to be what that is. Um, what I will say is the masculine energy is a little bit more structured. So if I can give you an analogy, this is not going to be a great analogy, but I'm just going to give you one, right? It's like a cup. The cup is what I would deem to be the masculine energy, right? The feminine energy is going to be the water that you put in the cup. The feminine energy is a little bit more free flowing, a little bit more soft, but that's okay. These things are 1,000% needed, and that's something that women get wrong today. Is they like I said, they have the mindset of it being weak, and it's not weak. There is the women that really rule this world are the women that are in touch with their femininity, and those are the women that I personally look up to. Do you think toxic masculinity is going overboard, trying too hard? Honestly, I think it is. Um, like I said, for the reasons that I had mentioned, the only way I really think toxic masculinity exists, and I'm sure there's other examples that I haven't thought about or don't know of, but it's going to be rooted in excessive aggression and violence. That's going to be um, that's going to be what I think is toxic masculinity. But at the end of the day, like I'm gonna say this, it's going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm gonna say it because this is something that I see personally, right? The way we have the United States right now is rooted is was founded on toxic masculinity. Now you can take that as a good thing or you can take that as a bad thing. But we're here today because of toxic masculinity, if you want to define it by those terms that I defined it by earlier. So we wouldn't even be here right now if it wasn't for toxic masculinity. So there's that, right? Obviously, the violence with taking over a country. You're gonna need violence. You're going to need to kill. That's right. Like I said, it's aggression, violence. You know, there's gonna be leadership that's involved, strength that's involved, purpose that's involved, right? Obviously, you play that role with the protector and the provider. When you have your family with you, you're going to need you would need to be that role just to have this country the way it is right now, right? So I think that needs to be taken into account, and people don't ever really acknowledge that, but it needs to be acknowledged. Like I said, appreciate you guys for stopping by. Give me a second. All right. So another thing I'm going to talk about is what I talked about on one of my other podcasts, which goes with the masculine energy, right? All right. There is a society has a way of emasculating men right now. You see, like I said, masculine traits looked down upon. They're looked as childish. They're looked as not needed. And if you take those away, which, like I said, is somewhat of the foundation of what this society is built on, if you take it away, you're going to have lacking aspects of society. If there's no masculine traits, right? Because the way society is going is men, you can show your emotion. Not to say that I don't exactly agree with it. I'm honestly conflicted on whether men should show emotion or not. Me personally, I don't express my emotions too much. One thing I realized is the feminine energy is not attracted to that. So let's just say I'm with a girl, right, and I start crying. Um, what it takes for me to cry is something needs to seriously happen. Something needs to seriously happen. It needs to affect my life right then and there, and then I will cry. But I don't cry very often, right? Um, it would take something very, very, like I said, very big for me to cry. But let's just say I'm crying in front of my a girl that I'm trying to attract. She's not going to be, sadly, she's not going to be attracted to that, and that's okay. That is the way it is. It is the way it is. At least through my own lens. Um, and I'm not only saying that because that's what I think. I'm saying that because I've seen it play out plenty of times. I've seen women talk about it. I've seen men talk about it plenty of times. Okay, but it is needed. Let's just say, like I was going back to my example earlier, right? Let's just say you have less masculine traits, right? And then you have a world war happen, right? Masculinity is going to be needed because femininity is not going to be defeating defeating the enemy in the war. Not That's never going to happen ever. And sorry about the dogs, by the way, but that's never going to happen. So the presence of masculinity always needs to exist. And like I said, they are both needed, and you cannot neglect either of them. You cannot neglect either of them. Um, hmm. I think I think we need to have more of an emphasis on embracing the differences. Um, because these things are different, and inherently, if things are different, they're not exactly equal. They're equally important, but they're not equal in the sense that they are different, which is okay. Embrace the differences, right? They have their own power, right? Um, but yeah, that's for the most part what I have to say about that. I want to know your guys' inputs because I've had some consistent viewers. So go ahead and give me your input, and I will get into other things as well. So let's hear what you guys have to say. If you agree with me, let me know. If you disagree with me, let me know. Yeah, these are things that I've researched and have my fair share of experiences my damn self. So I can even give you an example. I'll give you an example. Because okay, I heard some of these things that I talked about today. I heard them being said, and then I seen them from my own point of view. Right. One of my past girlfriends, one of my past exes. Right. She had to adopt. I was not in my masculine frame the way I should have been, the way that she needed me to be, and she had lost attraction for me because not only did she want a masculine man or a more masculine energy in the relationship, she decided to become that. And that right there was one of the downfalls of the interaction in pretty much it was one of the downfalls of the interactions. And um the more I learned about masculinity, the more the dynamic was more masculine and feminine. Like I said, the polarity needs to be there. It needs to be there. And like I said, if it's not there, one's gonna have to take over the other, and things are gonna go downhill for sure. But yeah, let me go ahead and respond to some of these comments real quick. Let me see if I can respond to all of them. Yeah, so I also want to talk about toxic femininity, which I kind of already did, but what that is women looking down upon women for being caring, supportive, maternal, you know, things that men want. Things. Let me go ahead and rephrase because I got to be very careful, right? Things that majority of masculine men want, right? That are straight. Yeah, and you don't even like I said, these masculine and feminine energies, they exist within, like I said, a man and a man relationship, a woman and a woman, whatever gender input, whatever you want, right? Um, like I said, if you have two men, right, usually one's going to be a masculine man, and one's going to be a more feminine man. That's how they attract. And if you have two women, right, one's generally going to be a um, masculine woman, and one of them is going to be more of a feminine woman. Like I said, you need to have both of these things. And people think that this is something that I've seen within society, and I feel like it comes somewhat from the feminist ideology, right? It's okay. It's okay to be the same. Like, it's okay to be the same. Like, you can be the same as your partner. You guys are equal. Like, things like that. Like, it sounds great. Trust me, it sounds great. It sounds great on paper, but when you see that real world application, then the problems start to leak in, and the problems start to leak in because there's no polarity there. These are my observations, right? But it's like, do I believe in roles within my own interaction? Yes, I do. Do I believe they're 100% needed? Um, they work out for me, and then they worked out for the people that I've seen, and majority of, and I think this also needs to be taken into account, right? All the relationships that you've seen that have lasted throughout the years, do they have this dynamic? Yes or no? For the most part, they do. I would say so, right? For the most part, there's probably going to be masculine man and a feminine woman that are in an interaction that has been sustained over years. And yeah, yeah, that's pretty much what I would say. If you're in here right now, appreciate you for stopping by. Like I said, make sure you leave a comment as well. All right. Yeah, I've said for the most part, I said pretty much what I wanted to say within the dynamic and how much they're needed. Okay. Yep, yep, yep. Also, we got the Suns game going on. Like I said, I'm repping the Life of a Champ merch. If you do want a shirt, let me know. I will make sure I get that to you. Um, I'm gonna have another shipment. I want to try to get everything situated and going in motion tomorrow. So if you want, like I said, if you want a shirt, the next type of colorway that I'm having, so I'm gonna have the Suns one, of course, because I think this one's pretty dope in my opinion. I'm gonna have the black and red and the white and red one as well. But I'm also going to add a more of like a Vice City type of look, like the pink and the blue. Something I talked about in a previous podcast. I definitely want to have that as one of the themes for this podcast because I think honestly it looks kind of cool. And I want something reminiscent of the like the Miami Heat, like I said, the Vice City jerseys. I think those are or the Miami Night. Those I feel like those jerseys are so cool, and I feel like if I can add something to that and then put it in my own podcast form, I think people would like that. Um, I think a lot of people think it's visually appealing, so that's the route I'm going. Like I said, if you want a shirt or you want a sticker, also got a sticker right there. I got one on my water bottle. I got one on my water bottle right here. So yeah, if you want any of those as well, let me know. Shout out to Gabe. Shout out to Gabe, by the way. He hooks me up with all the stuff that I have for branding. Um, if you are interested in making some of your own brand, reach out to me and I will get you in contact with him. He has some great work. All of it's really good quality. So yeah, that's what I will say. All right. What else did I want to talk about within this? Um, I want to talk. I want to talk more about femininity, right? Yeah, I want to talk about this one thing. I talked about it in a previous podcast, but I want to mention it again, right? And I'm going to speak like I said before, I'm going to speak in general terms, right? So you have majority of men majority of men are attracted to women. Majority of men are attracted to the feminine energy. I want to this is like 70% of the population. So, I'm going to say generally. I'm going to say most, right? With that being said, you have men trying to be what women want, which in essence, for the most part, is going to be rooted in the elements of masculinity. Like I said, the provider, the protector, the one with leadership, the one who's more assertive, the one who's a little bit more logical, the one who likes competition, the one who's always progressing, right? And now modern day women right now. So, like I said before, men want to be what women want, and through my observations, I heard this said on many occasions. You have women becoming what society tells them to be. Women nowadays aren't in tune with what men want. I mentioned it within the dating, the modern day. What was the podcast name? The current state of dating. I think that's what it was. Could be wrong. Something to that effect. Um, but women don't really know what men want nowadays. And how do I know this? Because I've seen this question asked to people on some podcasts. I've also had personal experience with me asking women, what do men want? And there's not really, besides looks, there's really not too much in common. They're very out of touch with what men want through my observations. And this is really hindering when it comes to the dating marketplace because, well, first, do women just exist? Some women just exist and can get men, right? Obviously, men have to work their way up to be attractive to women, and that's the only way they'll get women, generally speaking, right? Of course, there's exceptions to the rule, like I had mentioned, and there's going to be outliers, but for the most part, that's how it works. Um, but with that being said, women don't really have to put in that much work to to really attract men, though. Realistically, like for the most part, they just kind of have to look good, and they don't have to do too much, right? But like I said, if you want an interaction that's going to last longer than a few months, longer than a year, and you're a woman, I would recommend learning about what men want. I can tell you, it's for the most part is going to be somewhat rooted in the feminine energy. So research the feminine energy. Like I said, women are out of tune with the feminine energy, so researching that is definitely going to be healthy for you, in my opinion. Right. Um, but yeah, if you're in here right now and you have a question regarding some of the things that I talked about, like I said, please leave a comment. Or if you're just in here watching, like I said, also leave a comment as well. Okay, so if I'm gonna give some advice, I'll give some advice. All right. So if you're a man right now and you're in a relationship, I would recommend you, like I said, be very conscious of the of what she's attracted to. Be very conscious of this, and like I said, most of this is going to stem within masculine values and traits and morals, right? Um, be very conscious if you're falling off. If you're falling off, that is okay, but you need to get back on the horse. Do what you got to do, whether it's get back in the gym, whether it's staying on your purpose, whether it's you know, building something bigger than yourself. Get back to it if you've fallen off. You have to get back to it because the last thing that you want is you losing your woman to a more masculine man because you couldn't be that man that she wanted. That's the last thing you want. So do do the work that you need to do in order to attract the woman that is in your life um, that you're trying to have. So that is my advice to a man. Like I said, my advice to for a woman trying to attract a man, like I said, learn about what men want. And like I said, for the most part, it's going to be rooted in the feminine energy. Research the feminine energy, and you will find what you need to. Um, if you're a woman and you are a little bit, you tend to be a little bit more masculine, I would say if I go in a relationship, I'm going to get tossed in jail. What the hell? That you need hey I don't know even know I don't know what to say about that. Hey, you need some help for that, man. You need some help, man. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, for sure. You need some Jesus on that one. All right. What was I saying though? I'm not even gonna respond to that kid. Come on, now. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Put a bounty on you? Ain't no way. Ain't no way to put a bounty on you. Um, But yeah, uh, research what men want and go from there if you're a woman, right? Um, I'm trying to think. What else? What else? What else? What other advice could I give regarding the masculine and feminine energy? Hmm. I need help, bro. Like, say, let me know, man. Go ahead. Go ahead. Like I said, send me a text, man. My phone's always open. Um, for help. So I got you. Give me 1 second. Oh damn. Shout out to the Suns, by the way. You got a Suns game. At 7 o'clock. Like I said, shout out to the Suns. Would definitely be a good game. Got game two of the what is it? Semi or conference semifinals, if I'm not mistaken. Suns versus the Mavs. Suns today. My prediction for game two is they're going to go ahead and smack the Mavs again. How do you know if she's the one for you? Hmm. What I will say is this: I'm gonna give a little bit of a relationship advice as well because I've already pretty much talked about what I want to talk about, and it kind of falls within the relationship esque type of vibe, right? So, what do you? How do you know if she's the one for you, right? What I will say, this is my own opinion. The girl should like you more than you like her. That is my opinion. That is my opinion. Okay, it through my observations, it works better that way. Now, if you have the man liking the woman too much, I feel like that leads into being a simp. That's just my opinion, though, right? I feel like it can easily lead into that, right? How do you know if she's the one though? She's going to be supportive of what you want to do. She's going to be your biggest supporter. That is what honestly that's what I'm looking for in a partner right now. Um, if you're a girl I'm talking to right now, you're watching this. I'm looking for the biggest supporter that you can possibly be, right? Or support. She okay. How do you know if she's the one? She's going to support everything that you do and look out for your best interests always, right? She's going to defend your name when you're not there. She's going to she's going to give you unquestionable loyalty. She's going to be very like I said caring towards you. Like I said, it should fall into the feminine. She's going to be supportive. She's going to be caring. She's going to be empathetic towards your situations. She's going to be very helpful, very kind, very passionate, very what did I say right there? She's going to be very soft spoken. But yeah, that's what I would deem if she's the one for you, right? Like I said, it lies somewhat within the feminine energy, but yeah. All right. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and I will give this podcast another roughly 15 minutes, and then I'll go ahead and end it off. Um, but yeah, no, I definitely had some good topics in this one. Just to reiterate, if you weren't in here before, you got the feminine and masculine energy. Polarity is needed. So one person's gonna need to adopt the feminine role, other person's gonna need to adopt the masculine role. It doesn't matter if you're man or woman, whatever, man, woman, other gender, input, whatever, right? You're going to need it. You're going to need it at the end of the day, right? I needed that advice. No problem, my dog. No problem. Um, so the polarity is needed. Both are absolutely needed. And with that being said, they are different. They're very different, and the differences need to be embraced. And neither of them can look down upon. Neither of them, in my opinion, should ever be looked down upon. Um, that right there, in my own opinion, is toxic. If you look down upon masculinity, you're toxic. If you look down upon femininity, you are toxic. There is what I would deem to be a problem wrong with you. That's what I will say. Now, that's just my own opinion, right? Masculinity. Um, I'll talk about a little bit more about this. In society, there is a crisis of emasculation that is going on. People think that society can exist without masculinity, which it can't because it is founded on masculinity. There's toxic masculinity. Like I said, these are going to be rooted in unemotional, very violent aggression type The toxic masculinity is also dominance to an extent, violence, like I said, and control. Basically, asserting their power and control on someone or something, right? Like I had mentioned before, right? These things that are toxic. Okay, I defined toxic masculinity for you right then and there, and I also did it a little bit earlier, right? Some of these things through my observations, okay, like I said, you can call it what you want, but I've seen this time and time again, and even feminists, if you are a, which I don't know if you can, you could be a feminine, more feminine feminist, right? They are attracted to these traits that are deemed by them as toxic masculinity traits. That is what I see. I call it how I see it. That's how I see it. And I can give you examples. If you want examples to this, let me know. I'm not going to talk about them on this podcast because they can be a little bit explicit, but I've seen it happen before. I've seen it happen before, and it's prevalent. It's a real thing that exists. All right. Another thing is you got the elements of masculinity in general. You got the protector, the provider, one that is on his purpose, okay? Or one that, okay, purpose driven. I'm not gonna say a man or a woman, any person that is on their purpose, that is trying to fulfill it. This is also rooted in independence. Um, Usually the masculine role is going to be more of the leader. It's going to have a little bit more strength, a little bit more assertiveness. Like I said, it's competition driven. It's a little bit more logical, and who's like I said before, just to reiterate, going to be on that constant progression. Feminine energy it lies within the supportive, caring, maternal role. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more emotional. It's a little bit more empathetic, helpful, passionate, very looks conscious, um, soft spoken, and what I will say is this this is more of a following energy. Through my observations, it's a little bit more of a following energy. It's a little less assertive. Definitely, honestly, the opposite of what I would deem assertive is. I would say, I don't want to say, well, it's more of a go with the flow. That's what I will say. To say that in a way that won't piss people off, it's a little bit more go with the flow. That's what femininity is to me, through my observations, through my own experiences. Right. Um, with that being said, how many women do you know that are actually that are in your age group? How many women do you know that are feminine? And same question with women. If you're a woman watching this, right? Um, how many men can you truly say are masculine around you? And honestly, you're probably gonna struggle. You're gonna think about it. You're gonna struggle a little bit. I'm sure you can come up with some names, but you're gonna struggle. And I personally think that there's an issue that lies within that. There's an ingrained issue that lies within that. But that's just my opinion, right? Um, like I said, with the feminine energy, with all the things that I just described, the feminine energy is still one of the most powerful energies that exist because it can create life, right? Obviously, it still needs masculine energy, but it can create life. It's a very powerful energy. Should never be looked down upon ever. Um, the masculine and feminine energy is equal. They're equal within their importance. Hey, champ, there's a lot of women who do like men that show emotion, and there's a girl talking about the same topic on a podcast. I just seen it. Crazy. Okay, how do I break that down? That's interesting. But like I had mentioned though, there's going to be outliers and there's going to be exceptions to the rule, and I feel like that is honestly, in my opinion, saying women that say, "Hey, I like men that show emotion." That's good on paper. That should look great on paper. Let me tell you, that looks great on paper. I don't know if maybe they think they like men. I would say for the most part they don't. That's just my thing, right? It's not going to attract them. I don't think showing emotion attracts them. And like I said, how much emotion? Because this is something that I've observed as well. How much emotion is too much? Ask that question. And if you have to ask that question as a man, you're better off maybe not even expressing your emotions. Because who knows? You might be expressing it too much, and you might be not attracting your partner. When in reality, I think attraction is one of the biggest things when it comes to a relationship. You should be trying to attract your partner constantly. And if you're doing things that are the inverse of that, you are ridding ridding her of the attraction for you, right? I don't think that's the route to go, personally. And like I said, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. There's going to be women that can handle this. I would say those women probably are going to be a little bit more mature, in my opinion. But can it happen? Yeah. Is in my own opinion personally? Do I think that it is a common thing? Hell no. Nope. I've heard women say, I've seen him cry and I lost attraction for him. I did not think of him. I didn't look at him the same. That's what they said, quote unquote. I didn't look at him the same. Because that is supposed to be, you're supposed to be if you're the masculine energy, you're supposed to be the protector, the provider. The protector and the provider, if you're that and you're also being, okay, I'm going to say excessively emotional, which you can define that however you would like. I would say excessively emotional is just enough for women to not, or a woman to lose attraction for you, right? If you have that right there, and yet you're still trying to be the protector and the provider that she wants, there's going to be a conflict of interest. There's going to be a conflict of interest, isn't there? Take that into account. You're right, but there are some. You're right. Like I said, of course, there's going to, I usually speak in general terms. There's going to be exceptions to the rule. There's going to be outliers. 1,000%. I can't speak on everyone. I can't. That would just be, this podcast would be ridiculously long if I spoke on every single individual category. Like I said, not all these things can be taken into account. All I can do is speak in more general terms and be very careful of how I go about speaking in those general terms. That's all I can do. Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing though. Like I said, I think it's easier said than done type deal. That's just my opinion though. Because what you can say about that, right, is it's still, those women are typically still going to be more feminine women, right? They're going to be supportive. They're going to be caring, right? They're going to be maternal, which these qualities, in essence, are meant to handle emotion. And women process emotion a little bit different than men. Obviously, they're also, through my observations, a little bit more expressive of emotion. I'm going to speak with, I'm gonna go ahead and say for me, through my observations, right? Because you got some people that would disagree with that, which maybe you're living a different experience, but this is Life of the Champ podcast, so I'm talking about what the hell I see. So yeah. But yeah, to sum that up, can it happen? Can some women accept their men showing emotions? Yeah. Is there some that say that they will, but they really don't? Hell yeah. Like I said, that's something that it sounds good on paper. Sounds good on paper. Hell yeah. There's a lot of things, and I will say this. I'm not going to say what specifically, but there's a lot of things right now that are said by society that sound great, but when you look at the real world application, there's damn near none. And if it's managed to be done, there's a issue that is now spawned from that outcome of the outcome of the what looks good on paper, right? There's going to be there's a negative, in my opinion, in some of those things. There's going to be a negative outlook, but I think people should be very conscious of that, right? I don't think you should just say stuff because it sounds good. I think you should say stuff because there's actually some real world application that exists within that. So that's my opinion, though. And I will also talk about. I'll say this, right? So some of those topics that I just mentioned kind of go hand in hand with one of the podcasts that I'm probably going to talk about next week. The topic for that one, I'll give you. If you're watching this, you'll get a little bit of a glimpse of what the hell I'm going to be talking about next week, hopefully. Is being in denial of reality. And some of these things, I feel like, I'm not going to get into that too much, but some people within society are in denial of the way the world is. It's as simple as that. And yeah, that'll be a good podcast. I will have that hopefully next week. But if you have anything in specific that you want to talk about regarding that, make sure you go ahead and come in contact me, text me, whatever. If there's anything that you think I should touch on specifically regarding the being in and out of reality, like I said, let me know. I'm gonna end this off in about 5 minutes, so I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Make sure you leave a comment if you're in here right now, and then, like I said, if you have any questions or any comments regarding any things that I've been talking about, make sure you leave a comment so I can go ahead and get to you. But yeah, um, embrace the differences within masculinity and femininity. They're both needed, and when you don't have one, you got problems. That's pretty much the conclusion that I came to. I hope you guys, with this podcast, I hope it's a little bit more educational. I hope you took something from this podcast. I hope you recognize something that I had said. Appreciate you, Gabe. Um, I hope you can just, like I said, take something from this and apply it to your life, or like I said, at the very least, become a little bit more conscious of these things, and maybe when you're in the real world, you're living, you can kind of see this play out. So, like I said, I hope at the very least that's what you can take away from this podcast. Thank you, champ. I needed this. No problem, my dog. I got you. I got you. And I will be talking about this again on a video that I make for my other channel, which hopefully by the today's Wednesday. Hopefully by next Wednesday's podcast, hopefully I have that channel up and going. That is going to be my main project. This is something that's actually supposed to be. This is actually what looks like my main project right now, but in reality, this is actually supposed to be something that I do on the side of the main project, which is my channel called Evolve to Inspire. It'll be a bunch of very, very beneficial content that's going to be mostly self-development. This podcast has become mostly self-development in some type of way. This podcast is going to turn into a little bit more entertainment. Of course, there's going to be elements of self-development that's going to be rooted within the things we talk about, but the self-development channel is pretty much going to be all informational and all educational. So I'll just let you guys know about that. But like I said, I give this information because I feel like I see people around me, and it's helped benefit me in a bunch of different ways in life, and I know for damn sure it could help some people out as well. Like I said, this is why these topics, these are the topics that I talk about. So yeah. Trying to think what else. What else do I want to touch on? I got like about 3 more minutes. Like I said, appreciate you guys for stopping by though. The support in this podcast has been pretty good. Definitely better than I thought it was going to be on a Wednesday. So appreciate it very much. And I'll just reiterate on the things that I had prefaced this podcast on, right? In a previous podcast, I'd said things that were a little less than ideal. And just know, like I said, this is Life of a Champ podcast. I'm speaking on my experiences. I'm speaking on my points of views. And some of these things I'm going to say are going to be flawed, and that is okay. I'm going to make the corrections when I feel fit. And from there, like I said, I hope you can respect what I'm trying to do within my main objective being to try to help people out and entertain people, right? Like I said, I'm not perfect. I had a supporter of mine come bring this to my attention, and I definitely I thought it needed to be taken into account. I need to be more conscious of some of the outliers that exist and mention the fact that there are outliers, and not act like not act like one ideology fits everything, because that's not the way it is, right? Um, yeah, pretty much for the most part. That's most of these things I'm going to be talking about are not facts. These are my opinions, but the opinions are backed up by probably factual things usually. So just to mention that. I'm going to end this podcast in about a minute. So like I said, appreciate you guys for stopping by. If you're in here still watching, like I said, leave a comment. Tell me if you like the podcast or not. Like I said, KJ said that he needed this, so I'm glad that I could help him out. Oscar, I appreciate you for commenting as well. I like the input that you gave. Definitely very beneficial to the podcast, so I appreciate it very much. Trolling, appreciate you for stopping by. I'm going back to the comment GDP. Of course, always a great time. So checking in from the Sun Devil City. Los Suns, yes, sir. We got the game on later today at 7 o'clock, so just in about 20 minutes. So that is something I'll be looking forward to. And let me see if I mentioned everybody in the comments. Yeah, and Gabe, appreciate it as well. Coming in clutch for sure. Coming in clutch. But yeah, so that pretty much is the podcast. Like I said, I appreciate everyone for stopping by. If you did watch this podcast, I know it's on a Wednesday. I'm testing out some days just to see uh, how people respond to it. Also testing out different times, um, just to see how people respond to it. But appreciate the engagement for today. And on that note, I'll leave you with this one thing, right? If you want to be a masculine man, focus on the masculinity. If you want to be a feminine woman, focus on the uh, feminine aspects. If you're a woman and you want to be more masculine, focus on the masculine traits and look for feminine qualities. And if you are a feminine man, look for masculine qualities within your partner, right? Study these things. Like I said, I feel like you can never learn enough about these topics. So I hope this video or this podcast was very informational, because that is my goal. And on that note, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Like I said before, hope you guys have a good rest of your nights. And until next time, I will be having a podcast this Friday. I should have some guests on, and I think it'll probably be around relationships, just to let you guys know. But yeah, on that note, hope you guys have a good night. And like I said, I appreciate you.